Welcome back, ankle pickers. We're here for our main episode this week. If you follow us religiously, Set the Spread has already dropped for this week. That was spearheaded by Country Club Cobey, and it is also on YouTube. Thanks to DanKwagers getting after our YouTube. Big ups to you, Dan. We're going to start with the recap of 277 as usual. We will throw in a little contender series segment, parlay that to news and notes, and then Danny and I will break down this week's card. Santos versus Hill. Also, Danny and I took a different approach this week. We are going to figure out our ankle lock kind of live. Not a lot of chatter pre-show, kind of to see if we align on something without, you know what I mean, so we don't sway each other beforehand. So there's going to be a new interesting approach. Let's start first with recap. So we are recapping UFC 277. I think it was a decent card up and down. Dan, you were there. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The energy was awesome. Obviously Brandon Moreno fighting in the Southern United States of America is going to be a huge Mexican draw, and they showed out. I mean, it was wild. It was loud when Kai Kara-France went down and when he was laying on that ground and pound to really finish it. It was a raucous arena, and people were there pretty early. I'll give him credit, even with Orion Cosey and Blood Diamond kicking off, and then followed by a couple women's fights. But people were there and in their seats real early in this card, all things considered.
Yeah, you got to love to see that. That's my favorite thing because usually a lot of the times for these cards, you get there and the whole arena's empty. So awesome to see that people are coming out ahead of it. So there's a couple interesting ones. And Country Club, you can chime in whenever you see fit. I know, did you caught this card, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or a big chunk of it. Yeah. So I'm going to we're going to kind of just.
Big chunk of it, as in all of it.
Yeah, all of it. There you go. That's what we're talking about. Casual no longer. So we'll just talk about it and feel free to jump in as you see fit. But we're just going
to talk about it.
Well, we got to break
Cobey,
that.
I do think you need to throw Country Club into your bio somewhere on Twitter. I keep calling you Country Club Cobey in our YouTube descriptions, and that's got to they've got to find you somewhere.
Right. I mean, that is your name. So I'm not sure how you want to handle that, but that is your name. So we're going to start off with the curtain jerker, Ryan Cosey, Blood Diamond. And this was let's face it, a lot of my parlays. Did either of you two find this on your sheets? Because this one was interesting, and I want to talk about it.
I had Cosey.
I stayed away. The weight miss to me with just kind of the Cosey brothers' reputation for gas tanks was something that I was a little bit of worry of.
I had Cosey pre-weight miss and was very worried about the price that I paid.
I too was worried. But here's the thing why I want to talk about it. I know it's a curtain jerker, so we'll speed up after this. But I noticed a lot of people saying, mainly on Twitter, is one of our biggest interactions we had fight night, that Cosey is just not it. He's not good. He's undisciplined. I saw a lot of people throwing flack at him. And I commented that I do believe he has all the pieces. It's a maturity thing, and you kind of need to put it all together. And I wanted to table that because he dropped the second round of Blood Diamond, won the first round, dug deep, and got the third round done, which kind of combats that gas tank that I too was worried about. But what's really interesting here is, do you think he has the skill sets to be an actual contender or even a gatekeeper in the UFC? Or do you think he is just a guy who's just going to find himself in the early prelims and out longer than he has to stay?
I still think it's much too early to tell. Clearly, he's got that fighting spirit. Like you said, he hustled in that third round and got that takedown even when it looked like his gas tank was kind of on the ropes. But at 28 years old, I think he's still got maybe 4 or 5 years of fighting experience before he really reaches his prime. And I think that he could be a real contender by then. But right now, it's just way too early to tell for me.
I kind of don't disagree with that. And then the other thing, too, is Blood Diamond. Obviously, he's got thrown a bone because he's Izzy's homeboy. You think he just continues to stay, or do you think they're kind of done with this project?
I don't think he gets a pink slip so much right away. I think he's got a pretty long leash just because of who he's associated with. And I don't think that anyone minds when, especially fight promoters, when you throw a guy named Blood Diamond on the prelims.
The dude's name is legally Bloodline, so you can't hate that.
I do think, and Izzy's always been really outspoken about this. Stylistically, I think the weight miss really helped Orion. And you tend to see when bigger, heavier guys are going to grapple, the weight miss is probably to their advantage, but not always the case.
Yeah, depends how sucked out they are and how hard it took them to get the last couple of pounds. But yeah, so let's my fault for the way I queued those questions, but this one was pivotal for me this week. But I know we spent a little bit of time on the curtain jerker. Next one up, Negumereanu versus Ior Pretoria. Pretoria making his UFC debut. This one I had Negumereanu and the under, so I cashed both those tickets. It was mainly just because I saw this as a pure striking affair that is sloppy, and it kind of ended up being that way. I know the commentators were gassing up Negumereanu, saying, "Wow, what a performance!" I think this was more of a Ior's just ain't it, more than it's like, "Wow, Negumereanu's that guy." And I think that we might have a Negumereanu fade in the future. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. This was a fun fight, like you said, just kind of back and forth, sloppy a little bit. Cool to be in the arena, but yeah, I don't think either of these guys are coming out of this as names to note on my book.
Yeah, I agree. Jocelyn Edwards, split decision. Ji-Yeon Kim. I scored for Jocelyn Edwards, was surprised by the split, although I was on Kim. Untracked. It was more just for fun. But
I threw unit tracked on Kim. I took a couple of shots. I ended up red for the first time in a long time.
Oh, boy.
And it's a lot to do with 3 underdog single unit shots I took that all 3.
I was going to say, Dan, it's got to have been in the months since you've said red.
It was May.
Yeah,
the last time I had a red UFC card. I went red in PFL between then, but
yeah, but red UFC card is few and far between. So this is also the point where I reel in Country Club Cobey to ask him, are the women's dogs shaping up after last week's card?
0-2 last week.
0-2 last week.
Jocelyn Edwards closed as a slight favorite, and so we took the loss there after opening as a dog. So, we'll for the analytics department on how to calculate that one. But obviously, Nunez also ended up winning. We'll get there, I'm sure.
And Pena fell in with it because of the fade cap is 350, which, although it didn't look it, Nunez did fall under that. Michael Morales, Adam Fuggett. They're making fun of him on the podcast. On the broadcast. It's not actually called that, but it's Fugit. But Michael Morales is the real freaking deal, dude. And I don't know if he's the real deal, like his well-rounded skill set, but he's got swag galore. He's a killer, man, and he's young as can be. This is one of the first prospects that I'm like excited for. Like I genuinely am excited to watch him fight.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. He's 23 years old, huge, bright future ahead of him. Really impressed by his fight, even though we kind of predicted that Fugit is not so much the level of competitor that we really should learn from, or that we should be impressed by. Michael Morales was supposed to run through him, and he did. But props to him for doing it.
Also, Dan, I took KO minus 135. Talked about it on the podcast. Can't remember if you were with me or not. Drakkar Klose, Rafa Garcia. Drakkar Klose edged the decision. We were uncertain, but Drakkar Klose is supposed to wash this guy, in my opinion, minus 205 clip. I don't think he lived up to the number.
I think that's up for debate. I wasn't really worried at any point in this fight. Obviously, Rafa is a dangerous guy, but Drakkar just seemed like he was in control for me the whole time.
You tracked a Drakkar wager as well, right?
Yeah, I did. That was a 2 or 3 unit play. That was one I was pretty confident in.
Yeah, you tried your best to convince me on the podcast, and I just never came around, unfortunately. But it looked good. And also, I'm glad to see that the injury woes from the Jeremy Stephens shove seem to be behind him, which is important. Okay, Hamdi Abedabedawale fought Dontel Mays, another Dallas judging, Dan. I don't know what the feeling in the arena was that night, but another split decision that didn't seem to be a split, in my opinion. I had a 29-28 Hamdi, but split nonetheless. But Hamdi, a newcomer, only 3-0, and now sits at 4-0 professionally and beats a guy like Dontel Mays, who is he a world beater? No, but he belongs in the UFC, in my opinion.
I think it's debatable after that performance. I mean, he really, really looked unimpressive. Looked like he had no strategy in terms of like how to get the fight to the ground. Was just kind of, there's that one clip circulating online of him just almost running at Hamdi and then falling in, going for, I don't know, like supposedly like a hip check or something. I couldn't really even tell. But yeah, that was a really unimpressive performance from Dontel Mays for me.
Yeah,
I got trapped. I trapped myself and took Dontel live after he lost the first round, but I thought it was still like, I don't know. I just didn't think it was going to get to the card. So I figured
I could see
plus
that
number.
I could see that trap. I had a similar mindset going in, Cobey. I think I was just surprised that Dontel never kicked it up, which I think is the issue. Drew Dober, Rafael Alves. I thought Rafael Alves would have more for him. Drew looked incredible, in my opinion. I thought this was a great fight for him. And he got one of I believe two KOs from a body shot that night, which is always awesome to see. But Drew's climbing the ranks, man. I think he continues to be a tough out.
I was nodding earlier because he got a bonus.
Definitely, yeah. This was.
I knew anything about the body shots.
Wait, Country Club bonus, Drew?
Bonus.
Okay, and that's the first bonus?
First bonus.
Cool. Danny, what were you going to chime in?
No, I was just going to say this was one I was all over on our podcast. I was saying that Rafael Alves was going to start strong. His first round was going to be his best round for sure. And eventually the Dober Muay Thai was just going to come through. And the chin of Dober is really
ridiculous.
Something that's untouchable. It's similar to the Brandon Moreno chin that we were talking about last week too. Is two guys I'm confident are just not going to drop. I mean, it's impressive as hell, and we'll get into it in maybe half an hour when we get into this card. Terrence McKinney dropped him in the first round, but Dober is a chin made of steel. And I grabbed a live line too. This was one that I really cast out on.
What did you get the live
from Big Red?
What was the live line you got, if you don't mind? I mean, what was it? I don't believe
it was like plus 115 at the end of round one.
Okay, wow, that's exact. I mean, talk about scripting it. That is exactly how you said it would play out last week. I hate to beat a dead horse, but Country Club, doesn't sound like it just pays to listen, or is it just me? It might just be me. It pays to listen, man. It's ridiculous. If you followed Danny DanKwagers in on that one, you cashed out not only pre-bet but also live. Alex Morono, Matt Semselberger, dude. This was the biggest puzzler for me, I think, because I expected more from Semselberger, even though he had a nasty shiner. But also, like, can you name a more unassuming character than Alex Morono? He continuously gets overlooked, and then he comes out here and seemingly beats up on guys. Now, are they world beaters? No, it's a 51-year-old Donald Cerrone, Mickey Gall, David Zawada. I mean, nothing crazy.
But the common theme with all those guys is they're all better athletes than Alex Morono. He's just a tough cookie to crack. He really, I mean, he's going to take your best punch and hit you harder. And that's his MO, and respect to him, because it's not in modern day mixed martial arts. There's not a lot of guys that can go in with that game plan and come out with both paychecks.
I know it's hard to almost name another one. I mean, Kelvin Gastelum maybe comes into mind, or he's just not that athletic for his division. But like Alex Morono comes in, doesn't look the part, doesn't assume the part, and just continuously dismantles guys. Another thing important about this that I don't believe we'll touch in on news and notes, Morono says he has no desire to start fighting ranked guys or trying to go for gold. He's just going for longevity here. He wants to get his 20th UFC win. And
he likes to fight.
Yeah, he's just a guy who loves to fight. He's young. He's 31. He actually just got his rookie card this past year. But, I mean, he's been fighting in the UFC since 2016.
Yeah, I was going to say he's like the oldest 31-year-old in the world.
Yeah. So, I'm excited to see more from this guy. And I think that there's a real opportunity that you're going to consistently get this guy as an underdog, and he's going to consistently outperform his number. So, another win there for him, and it was pretty dominant nonetheless.
I was all over him.
You were? That's a great bet, because Semselberger brings question marks where you're like, okay, this guy's a freak athlete. This guy's got freak power. This guy's got a decent pace. You can convince yourself on why Semselberger is the better bet. That's a veteran play from a man who's no longer a casual. Love to see that. What was the final line you got on that? Plus 150?
I got 135, but I got it pretty early.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember where exactly it closed. Main card time, people. UFC 277. This had a price of admission. Thanks to ESPN Plus, it has gotten more expensive. Nonetheless, I'm sure you could stream it somewhere. You didn't hear it from me. Magomed Ankalaev, TKO's Anthony Smith. It ended up being a leg injury, broken ankle, I believe, and he is going to have surgery on that. Other than the injury, thoughts on the performance? I mean, Magomed obviously is a guy that I think a lot of people are sculpting for his title shot. A lot of people probably believe he beats Yuri Prochazka. So how did this performance ring to you? Because Anthony Smith obviously fought for the belt against John Jones. Not an easy out.
Yeah, I really didn't take too much away from this matchup. This was one of the shots I mentioned or a couple minutes ago. Big dog price on Anthony Smith, and I took it. I thought that maybe he had one more stunner in him. Magomed looked great. I mean, he checked the kick that led to Anthony Smith's injury. It wasn't just like a freak accident that we've seen in a couple of the heavyweights, or sorry, not heavyweights, main events recently.
2 weeks ago, yeah. Aspinall.
Yeah. And then even before the Rakic, there's been a couple of interesting ones.
Yeah.
And the Brian Ortega. There's been
a weird, this has been a bad year for injuries.
This was more so feeling like the McGregor Poirier, where Poirier checks a kick and it results in an injury. Ankalaev caused the injury in Anthony Smith. But I was sitting there in the arena. I saw it happen. I saw the next step, and I'm like, oh, he's wobbly. He's loose on that leg. It's from there. The fight was over to me. He had nothing left. Good for Magomed to get this feather in his cap and to move on. And I hope he gets a title shot soon because he's that good. But to me, it wasn't just like a performance that says, "Give me I deserve it now."
Yeah, and he is that good, and it's coming. It's inevitable, to say the least. So Alex Perez, this I think was probably the most shocking in the way it unfolded. Pantoja subs.
This was incredible.
Rear naked choke round 1. Brandon Moreno was asked post-fight because, I know we'll get to it, but Brandon Moreno won the fight. I'm sure everyone knows that. He said, are you going to fight Pantoja? Pantoja, I mean, obviously he's beaten you. He had another phenomenal win. Brandon Moreno said, I said to Pantoja, I promise you we will fight, but me and Figgy have to finish our business. So I think Pantoja either is going to be on the shelf or have to fight again. But talk about, like, levels to this game. First round sub over a guy who's a lot of people thought was gonna pay the price of the underdog there.
Yeah, a guy who on paper has all the skill to combat everything that happened. But I'll tell you, Alexandre, the version of Alexandre that was in Dallas on Saturday night, he beats Brandon Moreno. He beats Davison Figueiredo. I mean, fuck it, he beats Khabib. He beats Francis. That guy wasn't losing to anyone. He came in like a bat out of hell and was just not going to take a step backwards, period. You could have hit him with a sledgehammer and that guy was still going to come for you and just take your head off. That was one of the coolest performances I have ever seen. Crazy impressed from Alexandre.
Yeah, he looked great too, like physically some of the best shape I've seen him in. Obviously, we can't figure out how his gas tank looked. It ended that fast, but man, I mean, I've been a big Pantoja fan for a very long time, and it's hard to just not love this guy. Sergey Pavlovich.
50K there, too.
Yep, 50K there. Not surprising. Sergey Pavlovich TKOs Derek Lewis in 55 seconds. People called it a questionable stoppage. I don't know. I mean, these guys are slinging leather. But where this really got me, and I did place this for 2 units, this really got me because the line, I think, was the most suspect. I think the fact that Pavlovich was the favorite showed me there was a lot of sharp action on it. Derek Lewis, even with all the casual bets, everyone I talked to who's a casual UFC fan was on Derek Lewis. Oh, Derek Lewis isn't going to lose. And so that kind of gave me the lean more than what I watched on tape. But quick performance nonetheless, and I think we were at a point where whoever lands first was going to get the job done. I mean, the power these two men have is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that your point that you brought up last week of where do we really know Derek Lewis's chin to be at, is holding a little bit more weight with me.
Yeah. 37, man. 37-year-old heavyweight nonetheless. I mean, that's not an easy feat. I guess while we're on it, where does he go from here? I mean, Sergey's just going to be in the mix at heavyweight, but Derek Lewis,
strike.
That's a good fight. That's a good fight. Has that happened recently, though? I feel like it has.
No.
No?
No, I don't think they've ever fought.
That's the fight to make. I can't think of a better fight than that. That's a good fight to make.
The funny thing is I don't think either of those guys has a crazy higher ceiling than fighting each other. I think that they both are great fighters that are going to stick around heavyweight, but probably not climb the ladder all the way to the top.
I mean, they're just entertaining bodies, you know?
Yeah. They're not going anywhere.
No.
But they're not going anywhere.
Right. We have a bonus from this
fight. They're not going anywhere, but they're not going anywhere. I couldn't say it better.
We had a bonus from this fight.
Yeah.
To Derek Lewis.
For the crypto?
Crypto.com, 10K bonus to Derek Lewis.
I saw that. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I thought it was pretty. I was not so surprised reading that based on the reception that the arena gave Pavlovic and gave Derek Lewis in the moment. Everyone thought that he had been robbed and that he deserved something more, and so I wasn't surprised people kind of giving him that.
Still though, to lose in 55 seconds and get a 10K.
I won't tell him he deserved it, but I'm saying the emotions in the arena were he got robbed.
I'm not surprised it happened. It just shows that it's kind of a novelty, but at the end of the day, when that check hits his bank account and he has to claim it to the IRS, he's going to claim performance bonus. That's what's hilarious about it. What a performance out of Derek Lewis, the Black Beast.
And obviously, we're not a crypto website or whatever podcast, but I feel like you're selling that. Or you're right.
Yeah, I hit the liquidate button. I'm not messing with that. I need the cold hard. Do you know what I do, Dan?
You're just give me the cold hard cash and let me turn it into
right. I turn it right into UFC Strike NFTs so I can join you in the Champions Club.
Man, I do want to give them a shout out. The team at UFC Strike was incredibly hospitable. They treated me so well at 277. That Champions Club is an awesome feature. I just today in my email got my promo code for free Fight Pass, and so I'll be saving a couple bucks each month as well.
Wow. That itself is worth it for me. I got to get me a champions moment. So if anyone's selling, let me know. Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara France, co-main event for the interim 125-pound strap. I don't want to get into the politics of all this, but I do feel like these interim belts are a little bit overdone. I mean, Figgy was there with his belt, seemingly. I feel like it's a sales mechanism more than it is an actual legitimate belt. Nonetheless, Brandon Moreno gets it, looking to unify it with Figgy, and it was done via a liver kick that turned into a TKO ground strikes. Holy fuck. It was the toes right on the liver. It's about as painful as it gets. And Dan, one more thing before I just hand this to you on a platter. Ankle lock advances to 4-0? Second half or 3-0?
I think so. I lost count, but we're undefeated.
Either way, it's an O.
16-6 in 2022.
4-0 for second half, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I beating a dead horse, but pays to listen. I'm going to hand this to you on a platter, Dan. What a call from you. You really spearheaded Moreno here, and it showed. He looked phenomenal.
Yeah, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but I don't think that he wrestled really at all or had any kind of top control. This was Moreno outstriking and beating Kai Kara France to the punch. And in that third round, I guess the pendulum started to swing maybe, and Kai was starting to land a little bit more. But it was those body shots that just paid. The investments paid off. And you're right about that kick being perfectly placed and the toe being so painful when you get touched in that liver. I mean, there's nothing like it. But I'll tell you what, there was nothing like that arena. I've been to now 6-7 UFC fight cards, a handful of PFL cards, a couple fights here and there. I've never been in a louder arena, regardless of the sport. Man, did the fans show out for Brandon Moreno, and Herb let it go a little bit. I don't know if the Derek Lewis fight, which was right before, was on his mind a little bit. He wasn't in the octagon for that, but Herb let those grounded pounds land after Kai dropped from that liver shot. So
and the other thing too that's important to note is it's not like Kai is a pusher. I mean, he's a tough motherfucker. I mean, that shows the pain and the precision of that kick there. The other thing I found interesting, I was digging so deep into the post-fight interviews, figuring out, was that in the game plan? What was the script there? Moreno was working on that all week. So James Krause, absolute mastermind, not to get ahead of news and notes, also announced his retirement from the sport. Is going to focus solely on coaching. So I think that's going to be great for Brandon Moreno's career. Brandon Moreno's still young.
Not to get double ahead of news and notes, he was on Helwani earlier this week.
Yeah, that was where he announced it.
Talking like, well, but for our listeners, he was on Helwani talking about how he's up there with one of the best or some of the best MMA gamblers in the world, about how he's betting on fights that he's coaching, how he's betting on fighters that he's coaching, and that he's making more money from MMA gambling than he is from coaching, and that he is from any other outlet in his career. He was advertising some Discord where he was giving away picks, and it looks like he's playing $5,000 units. He's betting between 20 and 35 units a night. He's apparently a big dog in this space, and it's been under the radar for a second.
I didn't even know Krause had it like that. We got to try to reach out to him. I mean, I imagine it's a profitable wager just to back Glory MMA guys. I mean, they have a good gym. I mean, they have a great lineup. I mean, I know Jason Witt's coming up this weekend, but you got a mastermind of a coach in there. That's interesting. I'm excited to give that a listen. I'm going to give
I'll say it's especially interesting to know which guy as the head coach is personally backing with his own finances week in and week out.
Yeah, that is interesting. I would be surprised if he had a 5-unit wager on Jason Witt this weekend, but we'll figure that one out later.
Fight of the night bonus, $50K each, and $30K to Brandon Moreno.
So,
not to get too deep on this, but I was the only one that was surprised fight of the night. I didn't see it so much as a back and forth until really the beginning of that third round, but Kai got.
So interestingly enough, did you see the scorecards? Not that it came to this.
No, I didn't see the scorecards actually.
One judge had 2018 Moreno. One judge had 1919. One judge had 2018 Kai Car-France.
Honestly, it's a meme at this point how horrible the Texas judging is. It's honestly almost impressive. Like, where are they finding these people? I'm genuinely curious. Dan, you got to file your resume just to start judging them shits, man.
I do have to move forward. One thing that they disclosed, not so much with this fight, but with the early prelims and prelims, it was just local Texas MMA people that they were giving people that have had maybe less than 5, 6, 7 fights judged, fights scored, and they were giving their local guys a big step up until the main event started, and it was more of the UFC's guys. And still, this Texas Athletic Commission's rearing its head, and it's.
I mean, it's out of control. I mean, it's one of those things where before the fight night card even starts, people are jawing about how hilarious the judging is going to be tonight. Like, that's embarrassing. That shouldn't happen. Nonetheless, did this main event not get a bonus, Cobey? Nunes
crypto bonus from Nunes.
Just crypto, okay? Because I thought this would have been performance bonus. I've never seen a cleaner fight. Just a dominant performance from Nunes. And I'm actually going to give the floor to Country Club first, Dan, because he cashed out like an absolute bandit on Nunes. If you listen to Set the Spread, you knew this already, but Country, you saw this from a mile away. You weren't buying into the whole Pena's going to sub her.
I was nervous every time she went for an armbar the entire fight.
Okay.
So I don't know. I saw the number and I was thinking that, the number was 900 8 months ago. And since then, it's not like Amanda's had a kid since then. She's had the kid prior to the first fight. And so she was, more zoned in and part of tough. So like she had no excuse not to be in, and she's the GOAT.
I do think the tough weirdly fueled the fire. I was thinking about that. Like, no one's going to go on a reality show and then get smoked again by someone who is not as talented. But yeah,
especially not the GOAT.
Also, no one, and I mean no one, can question Juliana Pena's toughness. I mean, she just
For
got
sure.
Oh, yeah.
It was a hell of a fight. There's just levels to this, and one is the GOAT.
There's levels to this. Exactly. Also,
I will drink my metaphorical Malort. I ate the trash. I placed a 1 unit bet on Juliana Pena tracked. It was the last of my 3 dog shots. I had Pena, Anthony Smith, and Jeon Kim. Any of those 3 hits, and I'm green for the night. Or if I stay away from all 3, I'm green for the night. But sometimes you eat the trash, and this was for me. This was the end of the trash kind of shots.
My Moreno Nunes parlay was what sent me into the Greenland, just barely though, just by a smidge, because Sergey Pavlovich helped me a lot. Where was my big miss? Oh, my big miss was I don't even want to admit it. Dan's gonna give me a hard time, but I took Rafael Alves. Thought he was gonna give Dober a tougher time than he did. That first round looked great, and then Danny called it, and that's my own mistake. Never fade DanKwagers, which it wasn't a DanKwagers fade. It was me being a moron. But nonetheless, that closes the book for UFC 277. I think that overall we weren't super stoked about this one. I mean, it was not the best pay-per-view we've ever seen. It's worth the price of admission compared to some of the other ones we've seen, but I think it delivered more than expectations. A lot of great finishes.
I thought it was awesome. I really got to say, the energy in the arena was next to none. I really enjoyed being part of La Raza, Brandon Moreno supporters for the night. It was incredible.
I love that. I love that. And I'm glad you got to get there, go there. And that kind of leads us into news and notes. But I'm going to give a little ankle pick news and notes first. If you didn't listen to Set the Spread, we're working out getting a fight companion going for UFC 280. All 4 gentlemen, yes, Parker is still part of this. All 4 gentlemen we'll figure it out. But that's ankle pick news and notes. Now on to UFC news and notes. Country Club, hit us with your best shot.
Let's start with Contender Series. So 5 fights, 5 contracts. I'll run through them. You guys give me your feedback. But Billy Goff, welterweight, first round comeback after being knocked down in like the first 15, 20 seconds. Comes back, finishes with some elbows, and gets the first round knockout and a contract.
It was a good fight. It was a good fight. It was a fight that I think both of them I don't want to say wish they performed better. I know Goff was saying that he had more in him than he showed, but nonetheless, contract worthy. Love to see it.
Former MLB pitcher, heavyweight Waldo Cortez Acosta, first round knockout. Looked like he had some stuff to his game, but did I say first round knockout? I think it was a 3rd round knockout.
It was first round. It was first round.
First? Yeah. All right. Whatever.
Kobe, you said he looks like he's got some stuff, but how would you rate his stuff? Is he nasty or filthy?
I thought he looked a little raw.
More of a command guy.
I think he looked a little raw, to be honest. But I mean, he obviously dismantled this man, so I'm excited to see him. Plus, let's just call a spade a spade. We should have Contender Series, just heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight. They just need bodies, man. I mean, Acosta is going to be a great addition.
Featherweight, Francis Fire Marshall, 3rd round, or I'm sorry, probably the fight of the night.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Decision over Connor Matthews.
Yeah,
but does get a contract.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard the post-fight presser, but Dana White was talking to the commission. He thought that fight should have been stopped earlier, and he was talking to Herb about it as well, and they were figuring it out, and he ended up saying he did agree with them, and he just had a different opinion. But yeah, phenomenal fight. I think if you were going to watch just one fight, that's the one to go back and watch.
I don't know about that claim.
Yeah, I know these next 2 were too.
No, I don't want to talk about the first one or the last one. I have a story to tell. Go ahead.
Before we get there, Vinicius Salvador, 2nd round knockout, flyweight contract.
I actually have 2 stories to tell. I was talking to Danny, and he goes, yeah, I'm just going to parlay the 2 big favorites. And I was like, oh, that actually sounds like a pretty good plan. So I did that. Shannon Ross mucked my fiddle. Minus 265. Couldn't get it done. Fuck me.
I ended up not placing anything.
I
looked at that parlay, and I said, this is square as hell.
Well, it was circle enough for me. I fucked myself.
In the main event, Chris Duncan, lightweight, also gets a contract. Another first round finish, another comeback victory on the 5-fight card, and just wondering, he looked like it looked like the fight was going to be stopped one way and then one right.
And that's the story. I was doing a little booze, and it was a Tuesday night. I was enjoying my night of fights, and I go, you know what? I'm down a little bit on the square parlay. I'm gonna lay the favorite here, and I'm gonna recoup my parlay and throw a little bit of cheddar on top to actually go into the green. I was excited. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a great weekend. I'm gonna have Chipotle all week for free. Unbelievable. I took Charlie Campbell. I am like, call the fight. Oh, guy gets back up, gets dropped again. Call the fight. Guy gets back up, drops again. I'm like, all right, this has to be it. Doesn't, eats a straight right. I don't believe Chris Duncan should have gotten a contract because he's getting dropped 3 times by Charlie Campbell. But the guy's heart's undeniable. Give him a shot. But long story short, I cried myself to sleep Tuesday night.
He was saying in the post-fight presser that he got an accidental eye poke and was really having a tough time seeing while he was getting dropped, and then connected on one, and obviously it was over.
I mean, the dude's I really was hoping I wouldn't have to relive this.
Let's get into other news and notes. I guess wrapping up Contender Series, probably the best Contender Series card in the history of Contender Series. That was exciting as hell.
Yeah, especially with Dana White's like rant that he went on about how boring the first week was and how unacceptable it was. I mean, these people showed up.
Conor in the news this week, active all over the place. Earlier in the week, he called out what Diego Sanchez says his leg's healthy, wants to get in the octagon. Then later in the week, he's announced in a remake of Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yep.
And then earlier today, I saw he tweeted that he's done with MMA.
I didn't see that MMA.
Quick work is what he said.
Yeah, the last one is new to me. I mean, what is this, though? The 3rd time he's retired since the podcast has started, the 6th time he's retired since the Aldo fight.
Retiring on Twitter doesn't really mean anything to me, but just drums up clicks.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think Conor is the GOAT of MMA's past. But, like, look, no one's really taken –
he changed the way the sport's perceived.
And he changes the way that people act. I mean, I think Adesanya got inspiration from him. I know Sean O'Malley got inspiration from him. You see these draws that all model themselves off him. He is a pioneer, to say the least. But, I mean, is anyone seriously thinking, oh, he's going to come in here and beat Oliveira? He's going to come in here and beat Islam Makhachev? I'll watch a pay-per-view with him on it, but, like, if he goes, I'm retiring for good, and it is confirmed by everybody, and it's a done deal, I'm not shedding tears over that. I honestly think it's probably good for the guy. He's got enough money. He doesn't need to come in here and break more shins, you know?
I agree. I don't have much to add. It says everything about his legacy, that while he's still semi-active, the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter is directly quoting him to get his presser off and to sound cool.
Yeah, I mean,
non-UFC news. Non-UFC news. AJ McKee booked against Spike Carlisle, Bellator 2.
This is awesome, actually. I'm so excited to hammer the AJ McKee side there. Obviously, he's never fought up at lightweight.
Spike Carlisle is going to get absolutely dismantled.
There will be a little bit of a size something to consider, but not enough where I'm worried.
The crispness is all going to be on the side of McKee. He's going to be just fine.
Kobe, that line's not out, right?
Say that again?
That line's not out, right?
I haven't seen anything.
Oh, which, by the way, because I'm such a Merab fan, I needed to be honest and upfront about this. We can't do set the spread on Merab because I got multiple texts with the line opened at, just because everyone knows that I'm the guy. So Merab, Aldo, but apparently it opened at PK. So make of that.
Where does that go from there? It's a good question.
I think it goes Aldo's way, probably. I think that if I made you set the line, you'd have Aldo as a favorite slightly. Right?
How slightly?
Yeah. So it'll probably go that way a little bit. But
the rest of the way, I got some.
Wait, did you say not slightly?
I said how slightly, but I was kind of implying that it was going to be bigger than smaller.
Yeah, 150-ish maybe. I don't know. You're a maniac.
Just UFC announcements the rest of the way here. Askarov, Brandon Royval on October 15th.
Really great fight. itching to see Asker back in the win column.
Yeah, me too. Even though I don't think he lost the first one, me too.
2 more fights added to the card of the century. Muhammad Mokaev, Malcolm Gordon on UFC 280.
Yeah, Malcolm Gordon. I tweeted that at you, Dan, being like, what does it open at? -600? I mean, they're sending that man to slaughter. I think Malcolm Gordon's fade God, and Mokaev's on the up and up. I think that's a parlay ad no matter how you dice it up.
Yeah, I agree. Malcolm Gordon is less game than
Charles. Oh, I was going to say that. Who do you set as the favorite, Charles Johnson or Malcolm Gordon?
Charles Johnson.
Me too.
And then Mahmoud Muradov and Chao Barayo also on that 280 card.
What a fun one. And maybe we get a nice appetizing line on Chao because we've got a lot of Russian Muslim influence on that Abu Dhabi 280 card.
And Dan was telling me when I was going through the rookie cards that he's no longer a buyer on Mahmoud Muradov.
That is part of what I'm saying with this favorable line. I'm excited to
I
play
know.
Kyle.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, Dan might be onto something.
2 fight announcements the following week, October 29th. Dustin Jacoby, Khalil Roundtree.
Another incredible matchup. Just like that one gets me excited. It puts a grin on my face. Reece perks up out of his chair. It's just a fun Muay Thai matchup. Honestly, they should just agree, like in the face-off, in a presser and whatever, some interviews before, like, all right, no takedowns. Like first one.
The only way one of those guys shoots is if they get rocked. I mean, Khalil spends years and years in Thailand practicing Muay Thai, has some of the sharpest kicks in the world. We know Jacoby has no interest in shooting. I mean, negative interest. That one's going to be a fun one. That's going to be a fun one.
If that one gets Danny half chub, then this might be full chub. Edson Barbosa, Ilya Topuria also on that card.
Oh, my God.
Incredible. We talk about it a little bit. Who the hell is Edson Barbosa's management team? The amount of killers that guy's matched up against, I mean, it's really crazy, and it just doesn't stop. Ilya Topuria, I mean, they're on different trajectories. We say it all the time.
Yeah.
But what a fun matchup.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Edson Barbosa's like, I only want to fight the who's who. I mean, he has some of the best striking around, some of the most entertaining fights around, and I'm actually intrigued just because of how Ilya got caught by Jai Herbert. If he gets caught the same way that Jai Herbert caught him, but it's Edson's power, I mean, that you got to manage.
But it's at 145 versus 55.
True. But I was going to say, you might have a dead man on your hands.
I mean, this list is crazy, though. Felder, Ferguson, Pettis, Melendez, Dariush, Khabib, Kevin Lee, Hooker, Gaethje, Felder again, Ige, Makwan, Burgos, Giga, Mitchell, now Topuria.
No one will ever say that man doesn't – that man's scared to fight somebody.
Game as hell.
Yeah.
Last fight to announce, and this is all the way out to December. I can't believe we're already announcing December, but December 3rd, fighting for Reese's heart, Tracy Cortez versus Amanda Ribas.
Which one's fighting for my heart?
They don't need to fight over.
What the heck? Yeah, I mean, yeah, that fight is whatever.
All right, that's it. Let's get to this week.
Country Club's a
Let's
fun
go.
one. So this week we have UFC Fight Night Santos Hill with a little bit of a wrinkle. I guess the close or the capper of The Ultimate Fighter this year. I don't know if anyone watches that. I started it. I got halfway through, and I literally could not watch it anymore. It was so painful. Are you guys there? Hello?
Yeah.
What happened? Both your guys' images went away.
I'd take a pee.
Why did Danny's also go away?
Danny's not here.
You're muted, and his muted and his image went away at the same time yours went away. All right, whatever.
I didn't know I was muted. I've been trying to talk.
No, you're muted and your image went away. I was bugged out.
Oh shit.
All right, we're back. Sorry. You're gonna cut that. So this is also it's fight night, Santos Hill, but it's also the closure of The Ultimate Fighter. Not that I really don't believe anyone's watching this anymore. I tried to get halfway through it, and it was painfully slow and painfully boring. Nonetheless, the tournament championship for both women's flyweight and men's heavyweight is also closing. So it's kind of going to be the closure because obviously the coaches fought last week. This week is so on and so forth, but we will get there. Starting off, though, we have back-to-back women's fights. The first one being Mayra Bueno Silva versus Stephanie Egger. And the line is Stephanie Egger minus 130, or we're doing DraftKings now, minus 125. Mayra Bueno Silva plus 105. What's interesting, though, is it opened at Bueno Silva minus 130, Egger plus 110. So it's kind of flipped on its head a little bit. And I won't lie, Dan, I'm confused why. I think after my taping, I'm going to find myself, I mean, I'm obviously passing, but I'm honestly, I actually am kind of aligning with the science here. I think Bueno Silva's striking is significantly crisper, significantly more powerful. The only thing I worry about, Egger's got a phenomenal judo background, and I'm worried that, and Bueno Silva is content laying on her back. The only time I haven't seen it where she just sits on her back was her last time out, but you could see a appallingly slow top pressure from Egger that Bueno Silva just throws up submissions for 3 rounds and loses the decision. But the line movement did surprise me a little bit.
Yeah, you're all over it. Really nothing to add. I'm going to be on the MBS side. She's going to have an advantage in the striking. Her toughness was evident against Poirot. And if as long as she doesn't spend too much time directly on her back, I think she wins this fight. So I love the play.
Interesting, because you and I are the sharps, yet the sharps seem to be moving the line towards Egger. So they need to take a lesson from the ankle pick pot. Dan, since I took this one, I'll tee off for this one. Corey McKenna's fighting Miranda Granger at 115, and I know McKenna fights for Team Alpha Male, so you get the insta fade check from your boy. McKenna's minus 210 though. Miranda Granger plus 180, lined open at Corey McKenna minus 210. So very little, if not any movement. I mean, it depends where you get the line, but line has not moved much. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. People know that I'm not going to be playing this straight up unless I'm playing the dog. And there's a good strategy to play the dog here. I know that last time we saw Corey McKenna, she was a huge favorite over Elise Reed and very much shit in the apple pie. She's super young, super green. The base is there, but you look at this matchup and you've got Miranda Granger, who's going to have a size advantage, who's got a wildly big reach advantage. I'm talking almost 10 inches. And Corey McKenna, who is a decent wrestler and definitely has an advantage there, doesn't look to me elite in that realm. And so if this fight stays majority or 2 out of 3 rounds standing, I'm going to take the woman with the 10-inch reach to jab the other woman to death. And I love the, plus 220, plus 185, 190 back end price on that dog. And I know the science will back me up.
I was about to say, it already sounds like the science is going to get off to a roaring start off the rip, because I like Bueno Silva. You like Bueno Silva. I like Granger. You like Granger, at least at the value. Great start off the night, hopefully speaking. Third fight up the card is Jason Witt, a guy we just talked about in the recap, fighting out of Glory MMA, against Josh Quinlan. And Danny, I'm not even going to lie to you, man. I went all the way to his LFA fights to kind of get an idea of what Quinlan brings to the table. And what I decided was there's not enough evidence that Quinlan can defend the takedown where I can comfortably pay the price. However, Jason Witt has proven to be extremely chinny. I mean, extremely chinny. And I think that Quinlan throws about as hard, if not harder, than anyone he's faced. So I think Quinlan by KO might be the play if you're going to try to force something, but I don't think Witt is a live dog here. The line currently sits at Quinlan minus 245, Witt plus 205. Line started at Quinlan minus 200 and has kind of been steamed up, 10% or whatnot. But overall, Quinlan's a sizable favorite. Do you see it differently? I mean, I don't know the realm to play this, because I have the utmost confidence that Quinlan's going to be able to stay all 3 rounds. He's going to do more damage on the feet and tag him up. It's just the fact that I saw no evidence he can defend the takedown nor get up from the takedown, even on the regional scene.
So I love your thinking. I love your breakdown. You're so close to being on the exact same train that I am. And before I really get into where this train has led me, I want to preface for our listeners that this is one of the situations that if we weren't in a awesome game that we're having a lot of fun playing, this would probably be a week where I say we skip an ankle lock. But this is a spot where I see a play, I see a number, I see something that is really appetizing for me. And in a, like I said, we're forced to pick something that has the most confidence and is the best. And for me, when I'm playing the game and I've got a week like this where there's a lot of toss-ups, I look for a plus number, or I look for something that is at least going to give me some value back. And so Reece is talking, I'm agreeing a lot with the breakdown of Witt Quinlan. We got the wrestler Witt, trains with James Krause, who we mentioned. He's going to have a good game plan. He's going to know that Quinlan's coming out hard, swings like a truck, looks for that knockout, doesn't have a ton of late round experience. But you also highlighted the chin issue. So I'm looking at these lines, and I'm looking at a guy who I know in Quinlan's going to come out, start fast, really aggressive, swing with everything he's got for the first 5 minutes, look for that finish. And I know on the other end, we've got Witt, who's got a pretty good or pretty decent grappling advantage, plus a size and strength advantage if he survives. If his head stays on his shoulders for that first 5 minutes, he's got himself he's some strength, and he's technically more sound on the ground.
You're thinking under.
I like the under 2.5 here, or the under 1.5. I'm looking at
my only issue with that is Quinlan, at least in the LFA fights I was watching, showed to have a decent enough gas tank. The main fight I was talking about was Dallas Jennings. Obviously, he's not near as talented as Jason Witt, or at least as experienced. But he has such a wide stance that even going into the late second, early third round, he was still throwing hard. And the thing that fears me the most, not that your under won't hit, but I see this fight going, if it doesn't go in Quinlan's favor, I think it's going to go in the way where Jason Witt kind of does what he did to Philip Rowe, but in the first round, before his chin gave up, where he just lays on top of him, kind of peppers him with shots, and Philip Rowe just couldn't get up. If Quinlan has the same issue, I could see you just the clock just killing you while you just sit there watching a guy just slowly tap him from the top. That's my only fear. If it was a plus line, I'd agree with you, but minus 160 is a tough price to pay on that 2.5.
I almost like the 1.5 too. I know it's a less 5 minutes less, but you're looking at the plus 135, plus 125 range.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the 1.5 would maybe be the better play, because if it goes past 1.5, I'm going to imagine it goes past 2.5, because that means Witt's probably playing out his game plan that he wanted, I would imagine. But that's an interesting take on this fight. If you had to pick one straight up, who are you taking?
I do think that Quinlan wins this fight. I think that he finds the chin, and that's really what it comes down to when I was breaking this fight down. Is I think that Witt goes to sleep, and if he doesn't, I think that there's a chance Quinlan gasses, but Quinlan's gonna put the gas on or turn the pedal to the metal until he either gasses or finds a finish. That's what we know Quinlan's gonna bring.
I 100% agree with you that it's gonna be a headhunting mission for Quinlan off the rip. Here's one that I want to hear your opinion of. It's Brian Battle, so the last season's Ultimate Fighter winner, going down from middleweight to welterweight, taking on Takashi Sato at 170. And Brian Battle comes in at a minus 285 on DraftKings. Sato plus 240 on the other side. This open, though, at Brian Battle minus 200, and has gotten just hammered, and now finding it in the 280, 270 range. Before I tell you my opinion, because this is the one I wanted to hear your opinion most on, What is your thoughts? How do you think this is going to play out?
Yeah, this is one where I won't say it flip-flopped all week, but I thought that I would land on the side of Tekashi having a ton of value because Brian Battle, I mean, that whole season of The Ultimate Fighter, and this season too, the past couple of seasons have been really lackluster, not a ton of talent. The win streak that Battle's on, beating a bunch of other guys from his season, is good for him, but it doesn't show me a ton. And yeah, but the more that I really got into it, this reminds me a lot of that Tresean Gore matchup, but with Tekashi having a little bit less power and a little bit less athleticism and the exact same game plan. And so I do think that Brian Battle's going to win it. I don't think I would have touched it at 200, and I'm definitely not touching it at 260, 270. But do I have a ton of confidence on the Tekashi Sato side? No.
So here's what's so interesting is I had the exact same opinion as you on almost everything. I came into taping thinking there's almost no way I take Brian Battle. I was looking to fade Brian Battle. I seriously was. Watch Sato, and I think Brian Battle is going to destroy this man. Look,
wow.
Here's why. Brian Battle's striking is not the crispest. It really isn't. It's loopy. He really has a tough time finding the home, and his head movement's not great. His footwork's not great. However, his volume is extremely high. He is extremely high volume, and he is phenomenal at using his range. The Tresean Gore fight's the one I pick at the most. Tresean was continuously trying to close that range. Brian Battle kept him away at kicks, kept him away with jabs. Coming down to 85, I imagine he's going to have a lot of zip on those. I was taping Sato, and I was extremely underwhelmed. I think that if he gets put on his back, like in the Gunnar Nelson's fight, he is absolutely a fish out of water. And then when you watched him strike with Miguel Baeza, I mean, he was just always behind. He threw low volume. He was slower, and that's at 170. I think Brian Battle wins this fight no matter where it goes. I agree with you. The line's too high. I don't like touching it in the low 200s. Definitely not now. But I was thinking maybe a Quinlan Battle parlay, although maybe a wee bit risky. I do have a really strong feeling that both those guys win, and that's going to pay close to even. So I imagine that would be a way I might attack this. But Battle just is going to be, if the weight cut goes well, which is going to be the real key. He's going from middleweight to welterweight. The weight cut goes well. His range and his power is not going to be like anything Sato's seen. And so I really came into this looking to fade Battle, and the tape just doesn't show it, man. The tape just doesn't show it. I tried to find it. I went through every nook and cranny to try to find it, and I couldn't. I really like Battle here. Terrence McKinney versus Eric Gonzalez, the biggest favorite on the card, and honestly the biggest favorite in almost any card you'll find. Terrence McKinney's coming in at a whopping minus 850, but across all other books, that's on DraftKings, across all other books, it's 900 and 1,000. Eric Gonzalez on the flip side's coming in at plus 600. That's pretty consistent across the board. My opinion is I just believe that at this high of a level, no man should be minus 900 just because these guys are still professional fighters. It's not the same as Valentina Shevchenko being minus. I mean, these guys pack power. They always have a puncher's chance. 900 seems steep. But man, was I unimpressed with what Eric put on film. He has horrible defensive striking, very loopy strikes, not crisp at all. I think McKinney dismantles this man. I think McKinney first round KO TKO is the best play. Because obviously you can't, or McKinney just KO TKO in general apparently is plus 120. So I think that would be the way to do it. And then I think if you were like, I need to place on this fight, I would say McKinney first round, McKinney KO TKO, or just Gonzalez straight because McKinney could gas. Those are the only ways I could see it. But I have a tough time thinking any man should be minus 900 in the UFC.
Yeah, really nothing to add. McKinney's someone that really impresses me. I won't be paying this much on any kind of prospect, let alone Terrence McKinney, even though I'm really impressed by his wrestling, his striking, his power, really all everything. I not going to touch this one.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. Unless I get too drunk on the first four and degen something, which will be what I just mentioned, either first round.
I was surprised when you said that the TKO KO has a plus in front of it. And so,
yeah. And that's not just first round. That's just period. Plus 125 apparently. So, yeah, that might be the way to go.
I think McKinney in round 1 is minus 200.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Did I find a faulty line? I was looking.
No, I checked it. I checked it right after you said it because I was surprised, and it's right there. But McKinney round 1. Oh yeah, I'm seeing minus 160 up to minus 200.
Dan, McKinney KO TKO. That might be the move. Gonzalez really doesn't protect himself well. That might be my send. Michelle Oleziacek versus Smiling Sam Alvey. This tweet actually got a good amount of traction on Twitter. I tweeted out that it is a true fact. Smiling Sam Alvey currently is tied for the longest losing streak in UFC history with BJ Penn at 6. Or winless streak. Sorry, winless. He did have no contest. Or a draw. Winless streak at 6 losses. He's coming in at a whopping plus 450 against Michelle Oleziacek, who's coming in at minus 600. Look, I know Michelle's going to win. I know Sam Alvey's not going to win. Like, I'm very confident in that. But I really don't know how to play this one. I could see Sam Alvey surviving the distance. I mean, he's going to be significantly bigger come fight night. I just don't see him winning this.
Do you think that Sam Alvey's going to be significantly bigger come fight night?
I know he was talking about on social media that he has 20 pounds to cut just to get to, 85 or 205?
It's 85, and Oleksiejczuk has fought, or not always, but he's fought at 205. He's looked small.
I know, but he's always looked small at 205, yeah.
But that's why I'm unsure that Alvey's going to have a size advantage.
I don't think Michelle cuts that much weight, man. I really don't.
This is one where I also like the under. I'm looking at under 2.5, minus 138 over on Betway, minus 140 on Bet Rivers. No line listed for DraftKings. I'm sure that it'll be somewhere in that range. But it's like you said, we've got light heavyweights who both have decent power. Sam Alvey hasn't won in forever. And guys like, Brendan Allen's choking him out. Julian Marquez is choking him out. I think that this one will end. I really do.
I love that price on the under. I'm actually shocked it's that low for the under 2.5. Because I think Michelle could dispose of Sam Alvey quite easily. But I also think that Sam Alvey, as tough of a time as he's had, he's still able to find a home for those shots. It's not like he doesn't pack power. It's not like he's not a professional striker.
Definitely.
Yeah, under might be the send there. I kind of like that. Main card is up next, and we're starting off with Ariana Lipski against Priscilla Cochea. And the line is Lipski minus 175, Priscilla plus 150. Opened at Lipski minus 180, so next to no line movement. Dan, we kind of talked about this one on Set the Spread where we were at. But I think, as much as I like Lipski, I think this is another science bet, Dan. I think that the 150 on the other side is just too attractive.
100%. And I'm just not impressed by what I've seen from Lipski. And although these women are at two different points in their careers, I think that it's a 28-year-old woman versus a 33-year-old woman. Is that really that huge of a difference? One's technically entering their prime, one's technically exiting their prime. But I think Cachoeira still has enough in the tank to at least fight for your money. And I won't be paying favorite prices, so not 175, 180 on someone I've never been impressed with in the octagon ever.
Yeah, this honestly, I know Science last week went 0-2. This really does scream Science night, honestly. Everything sounds like the dog's looking favorable. Next main card fight is Augusto Sakai coming in against Sergey Spivak. Dan and I both undershot the line here. Sergey Spivak is now up to a whopping minus 280. Augusto Sakai plus 235 on the other side. This opened at Spivak minus 200 on the dot and has since gone up quite a bit. And it's honestly gone up quite a bit recently. This line really took off. So the line opened July 18th, and this line didn't really take off until around August 1st, July 31st, and it just took off. So a lot of people are seeing something in Spivak here. I like Spivak, and it simply comes down to the fact that he's handled guys like Greg Hardy pretty effortlessly. And I know Sakai's more talented of a mixed martial artist than Hardy, but I see this being a long night for Sakai in the realm of clinch control and just being stuck on the bottom with really no answer for it. You saw it against.
And you're right about Sakai being a better martial artist than Greg Hardy, but it's a similar problem or similar puzzle to solve in terms of Spivak taking them down and really smashing. And I think that that's what the sharps are looking at, and that's kind of what I came down to when I was looking at tape. I think that Spivak's really going to hammer Sakai. And Sakai, who has heavy hands, he's dangerous. But to me, he hasn't looked the same since Overeem caught him after he gassed, and he's been gun shy, lacking volume. I would give Sakai the advantage on the feet if I was confident that Sakai was going to have more volume, but I'm not.
Or that the fight was going to stay on the feet, which I'm also not confident in.
Right. I'm even just saying for the time that it does stay on the feet, I'm almost just already giving Spivak takedowns. But I'm saying for the time it stays on the feet, I'm not even confident Sakai wins exchanges.
The other thing, too, about that Overeem fight that's so important is that was on the super, super tail end of Overeem's career where a big worry was his chin and how his chin would hold up. And so I almost think that's another notch for Spivak where even if Sakai lands a couple of times, I don't think – I mean, Spivak's not some guy who's going to get flash in the pan KO'd. I think that he's going to be able to get to shoot for a takedown if he gets stumbled. And actually eventually get it to the mat as well. So I think Spivak's another great parlay at, and I think outside the women's fights, it's going to be a big night for the favorites. I really don't see a lot of dogs having value here outside of the women. Let's get to the tournament championship. Dan, for the viewers, have you watched this season of The Ultimate Fighter?
I watched every episode. I didn't watch any closely, and I didn't revisit any for tape. So let's just say that that's where I'm at.
Okay. So you did more than me. I did revisit for tape, but I got rid of everything else possible. I didn't listen to their stories. I didn't listen to I didn't listen to anything. I didn't watch them train, nothing. I just watched the episodes where the people who made it to the finals were fighting. With that being said, we'll start off with Juliana Miller versus Brogan Walker. And the line is, I'm still on the goose, this guy's feedback. The line is Juliana Miller minus 120, Brogan Walker plus 100. Juliana Miller opened at minus 135. So, a couple people have taken a shining to Brogan, but it's not a lot. It's limited line movement. I'm staying away from this one. However, if I were to pick, it would be Science. It would be Science night. I think I'm just taking Brogan at plus 100. I think that especially in fights like these with a woman who has 3 professional fights under her belt, I think that allows for even more of an opportunity for there to be variance. And when there's big variance, I tend to like the underdog.
Reece, there's a reason I do this podcast with you, and it's because you're smart. You sound really smart right now talking about Science. And I'm about to say something dumb. I think I like Juliana Miller here. I think I like this woman's favorite. She's a grinder. She's got great body lock takedowns, sneaky jiu-jitsu, good cardio. I don't think that this is a long-term winning strategy, but she likes to move forward, does not take a step backwards. looks for some of either of those body locks or just comes straight at your face and hits you. She forces the action right to her opponent. And on the other side, you've got a 33-year-old woman who's just breaking into the sport. Technically, she's got more experience, 7-2 versus 2-1. But can we really say that 7-2 is a load of experience?
What if I told you that she beat Miranda Maverick?
Yeah, I know. I know she has a win over Miranda Maverick, and she actually looked good against Erin Blanchfield. Those are two different versions. Both of those women.
100%.
And I think Juliana Miller comes in and is the better athlete, and I think she shows out. I don't know if I'm confident enough that I'm going to play it, and if I do play it, it won't be a multi-unit play. We're talking, unproven fighters that I've hardly taped, but Juliana did catch my eye during this season, and I was like, I like this fighter. She's someone to watch.
And you did mention, you're like, oh, I'm going to do something stupid. I don't even think that's stupid. It's not science enough. It's not like Miller's minus 190. And I don't disagree with you. I mean, she was one of the only women to get a finish with the Kimura on the season. I don't know the other fights, but I know out of those, they only had one finish out of these two. And she also has I looked at her tab, she has a sleuth of grappling experience. And that always, her record doesn't necessarily paint the full picture of her experience, which also is worth.
Right, that's part of it. I think I said it right at the top. To me, it's a little bit of striker versus grappler, and we've got a situation in the small apex cage where the grappler is not gonna play the game of dancing and getting jabbed and whatever. She's gonna come at you, and all of a sudden you're gonna be up against each other. And so I think that favors the body lock specialist to get some body lock. I was about to say,
even just clinch control time and kind of the less exciting, but the grinder mentality. She definitely is a dog too. I mean, she's Miss Violent.
Oh yeah.
So I
like this conversation, Reece. I know it's a little bit of an echo chamber with you and I. I think I'll wind up on this Juliana Miller.
Yeah, I don't totally disagree with you. I think for me, it's just easier to back the science, but this is the one where it's hard to predict either way. So I believe this is a Twitter follower of ours, but Zach Pauga is fighting Muhammad Usman for the heavyweight tournament championship. And the line, and so it's 5-0 Pauga against 7-2 Usman. This is the brother of Kamaru Usman. And the line comes in at Pauga minus 250, Usman plus 210. And it opened at Pauga minus 200. So he has seen all the action and has moved it up to 250. In my opinion, he is. I mean, look, I saw Usman before this tournament in the PFL, and he lost, and it wasn't a great performance at all. Obviously, it was a completely different fighter than he is now. It was over a year ago. On the other side, though,
he's also got a loss to Dontel Mays, who we talked about in the recap as being maybe UFC level.
And Pauga, on the other side, I mean, he fought Marcus Perez in Cage Warriors. I watched that one live, performed well. And then he had these Ultimate Fighter performances. And, you know, I think that Pauga is the guy that I want to back, but I'm really not looking to pay the 250 price tag on two guys that just aren't necessarily like, look, I'm not saying Pauga won't be it. And I'm not saying he won't compete at heavyweight. And I'm not even saying he's not talented. I'm just saying I don't know if I've seen it enough to pay 250. No disrespect to him whatsoever, but 250 is a steep price, especially against a guy who has a proven champion in his corner.
One thing I'm noting is it's a heavyweight fight, and we're looking at a coin flip odds on over under 2.5. Does that interest you at all? And maybe playing the under, just in that they're heavyweights and one punch could turn off most people's lights.
The under would interest me, but out of their 4 fights on the Ultimate Fighter, 3 of them went to decision. So
I do think that there's the aspect, I mean, you see on the Tapology record, they're called exhibition fights. And you see it in the PFL a little bit. People change their game plans knowing I have to be healthy for the next fight. And heavyweights going into a do or die championship is different than the second or first round of a tournament where they've got to be healthy in another 5-6 weeks.
That is a mentality I honestly didn't really think much about. I mean, they're massive men too. It's not like this fight will lack power.
The other interesting storyline, you've got Mo Usman training at Fortis MMA. Obviously, his brother started in South Florida and has been at Elevation Fight Team in Denver for the past year or so since winning. And Pauga is an Elevation Fight Team guy. He's close with Whitman and Gaethje, and I think he's been at he's been at Elevation since before Kamaru got there. And so that's just an interesting dynamic of Kamaru's going to be. We think Kamaru's going to be in Mo's corner. How much has he seen in camp? How much did he talk to versus Trevor? How much is it could be nothing. It's just an interesting storyline I noticed.
Yeah, that is interesting. And talk about like top tier upper echelon of camps. That Elevation Fight Team is as good as they come. No knock against Fortis. Fortis is too, but Elevation Fight Team and Trevor Whitman's mind in particular is one I hold with an extra shine on it. Sounds like we're both on Pauga.
Yeah, I'm just not picking this one.
Yeah,
I can't tell you that I'm on Pauga like I would ever play the number, but if you're doing a parlay of the entire card, the Pauga's the side for me.
Okay, and then maybe the under too potentially.
I don't know why
that's something. Yeah,
it's poking its head. I opened best fight odds half expecting it to be a 1.5 that I was gonna like the over of, but when I saw it's 2.5 and still just 110 each way, I was like, these guys are still 265. They're still gonna go in there and throw absolute cinder blocks at each other's chins. Maybe.
Could be. Plus, they're looking to put on a show. We saw it in the Contender Series. Getting to the co-main event, Vicente Luque is taking on Jeff Neal. Line's not nearly as high as I thought it would be. Vicente Luque is minus 180. Jeff Neal is plus 155. The line opened at Vicente Luque minus 175. Almost no movement. One thing of note is when the line first opened, someone smashed Jeff Neal, where it was enough to move from 175 to minus 145 for Luque. And then ever since then, it's just slowly climbed back until it's past the opening point at 84. So there was really early action on Luque or on Neal, and then it tapered all the way back until where Luque's higher than where it opened. Dan, I actually want you to start off on this one just because I'm so torn on this one, especially at that price.
You're going to be a little bit, I guess, when you say you're torn, less so, but I expected a little bit confused on this one just based on our conversation on set the spread, because I've actually come a lot more towards the Jeff Neal side. And Vicente Luque is a guy that's made us money as a podcast, that's a training partner and best friend of one of our favorite fighters of all time, Gilbert Burns, a guy that's, I mean, just a really well-respected mixed martial artist from me. Good everywhere, game everywhere. And I think that that's partially his downfall. And, I mean, I think that we're going to see a situation where he's confident to stand and trade with Jeff Neal, who, I mean, that's Jeff Neal's only way he's going to win this is standing and trading and landing more. But Vicente Luque is a guy, if you look at the stats, and I don't a ton, but I always kind of peer over them. No matter who, on average, he's eating more shots than he's delivering. And I think against a guy who has a reach advantage and has a power advantage. Oh, no, they've got equal reach. Scratch that from the record. But has a power advantage. I don't think that is a good strategy. I think that it's just not the best matchup for Vicente if Vicente is going to make this a coin flip Muay Thai matchup.
But do you not think that Vicente, not only does he have a phenomenal chin, but don't you kind of believe that Vicente is maybe more technically sound and talented everywhere?
Maybe do.
Outside of the argument that Jeff Neal might have more power, I feel like Luque, when you break it down by even fight IQ, I feel like Luque kind of beats him everywhere. And I might be off base, but that's just my initial opinion from what I've seen.
I don't know. I look at the fights that Jeff Neal has lost, and it's Wonder Boy and Neil Magny. The strategy that Neil Magny had of weighing heavy on Jeff Neal is not something Vicente Luque is going to do. And Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is just a different level of striker.
Yeah, Luque lost to him too.
I see Luque standing in front of Jeff a little bit too much and just being a little bit too hittable. And that's kind of what scared me off of the Vicente Luque side. Excuse me.
Okay. So are you going to play / track Jeff Neal, or is this just an inkling that doesn't go farther than that?
You know, I've got my finger on the trigger. Nothing's being pulled yet. I would not be surprised come Saturday morning if Jeff Neal's on my card for 1 unit. I think that this should be a lot closer to evenly lined, and plus 150, plus 155 is a tasty number.
I mean, sounds like the listeners are going to have to get over to Twitter, where they've always needed to go, to find out how that shakes out. Main event time. Thiago Di Maretta Santos against Jamahal Hill. And the line is steep. Steeper than I thought. Jamahal Hill is all the way up to minus 320 right now. Santos on the reverse is plus 265. Hill
320 is huge.
Hill opened at 250 and has never looked back. It has just gone straight up since then until it's found its eventual home at 320 on DraftKings. Wild, wild, wild. So 250 to 320. The worst part, Dan, I think Hill's a parlay piece. But I don't know. You're talking about a guy who went 5 rounds with John Jones and looked great. But I know that was 2 ACLs ago and 3 years of age ago. I don't know. I'm truly torn on this one as well. At the line. Straight PK, it's Hill all day long, without a doubt. It's that 320 line that really is where it becomes a problem.
Yep, I agree. And I think that part of the reason why Thiago is so unplayable for me, even though I think the line's a little out of whack, is that it's a 5-round fight. We've seen what happens to Thiago in 5-round fights recently since this double ACL replacement, MCL, PCL, the whole thing on both knees. He either sets a pace that's unsustainable and gasses, or he's too gun shy and can't win any round because he only throws 15 strikes. And against a guy who's got the cardio advantage, going to have the speed advantage, might not be better technically in striking. I don't think many people in the world are better technically striking than Thiago Santos. I think Hill is going to have a lot more success when they're striking over the course of 5 rounds. And the Santos side is just so unplayable to me because of that.
Yeah. The speed advantage, and especially with the age as well, you got to give towards Hill. So I guess the main reason why people listen here is how do you approach this? I mean, how are you going to play this line? I think for me, the only spot I can really do it is either Hill minus 320 in a parlay, not straight, or Hill wins by KO TKO at a slight minus line. Outside of that, I mean, you can worry about a club and sub. I don't know, kind of like what you touched on, that this 37-year-old Santos we see can truly go 5 with a guy who puts the pressure on him. But I don't know, man. I had a tough time finding out how to play this one.
So here's an angle, and it's a little interesting. But we've got Jamahal Hill trying to prove himself, trying to get himself into that title conversation and put his name at the top of Dana and Mick Maynard's list, right? It's his first 5-round fight in the UFC. I know it's the first time that I want to say that he's been scheduled for 5 rounds, but I'm actually not sure. I'm trying to click through his record here. Okay, he's been scheduled for 5 rounds before. But But in the UFC, it's the first time he's going to be in championship rounds. Do we think that? I'll say the other side first before I pose the question. Thiago Santos, although he's slowed, although he over 5 rounds he's looked gun shy, looked whatever. Guys like Alexander Rakic, guys like Magomed Ankalaev, guys like John Jones can't knock him out.
Yeah.
If we don't think Jamal Hill's going to go in there and sub him, is the over 1.5 a huge value play at like -150? I'm seeing it in a 5-round scheduled fight with a guy who wants to prove he can go 5 rounds and against another guy who doesn't get knocked out. And I don't really see Jamal Hill going flatline. So 7.5 minutes to me, I see this fight going over 7.5 more often than not, and more often than the 155, 160 implies.
I think it would be the longest, 7 minutes and 30 seconds you'll have, but I don't hate it.
I mean, Jamal Hill has the record of he's coming out there to take your head off, but that's against Johnny Walker, Jimmy Crute, OSP. It's not strikers of the same level defensively and footwork wise than Thiago Santos. And what we're saying, the reason we don't like backing him, the main one for me in these recent 5-round fights is the output. It's the volume, and it's because he's not finding the right opportunities, picking his shots well, his footwork's well, moving around. I think it's likely that we see a stare down for 30 seconds, a minute and a half of gun shy, and then some movement where it's hard for Jamal Hill to really line up a perfect shot.
Especially if there's that standard light heavyweight feeler round, where they gauge range, they slowly.
If it was 2.5, it'd be a little different, but I like this over 1.5. 7.5 minutes to me is not a ton of time when both guys are preparing months for a 25-minute fight.
I think if you were gonna approach this fight, that is the best angle to do it. You have fully swayed me on that, and it honestly might see my track plays. I think that's the way to approach it.
It's a little bit shaky because, like you said, this is a tough card to play. There's a lot of favorite action. There's a lot of favorites that we like. And I'm going to end up with a couple of props that are in and around my card, and I don't know where it's at because listeners know that's historically my worst kind of plays are props. But, I mean, we've ankle locked some and they've cashed, so it's not like that's a foregone conclusion, that narrative.
Yeah, and so if you can tell by the way this discourse went, Danny and I have not quite settled on an ankle lock, and we're going to need to go to the drawing board to get closer to finalizing that. So follow us on Twitter at Ankle Pick Podcast. That's the best spot to get it. We will tweet it out there. Guaranteed 4-0 on the year so far. Looking to advance that. Country Club, any house cleaning before we wrap this bad boy up?
I got nothing to add.
No?
I'll clean you up a little bit. 16-6 on the year, 4-0 since the new game started.
But in that new game, we're in second place. We're looking great. All the momentum in the world. Let's keep it.
That's the plan. Cobey, send us off.
Porra!